The iPad has just turned into a Mac-like computer. Hi everyone, Mr. Hawkins with Hawkins Tech, and iPadOS 26 is by far, without a doubt, the biggest update to the iPad in years, or at least since the introduction of iPadOS 13 when it came out back in 2019. iPadOS has always been a very good feature on the iPad, but it has had some very disappointing limitations for most iPad users. The goal of iPadOS 26, when it first came out, or iPadOS 13 rather, was to turn your iPad into what some may call a desktop sort of device. This was achieved with Safari, as Safari was a desktop class browser, but third-party browsers such as Google Chrome and Opera, which are the two third-party browsers that I have, were not desktop browsers, and any other third-party browsers were not desktop browsers. They basically were iPhone browsers that would run on your iPad, and that's still the case in iPadOS 26. But there is more features to talk about that will make you care less about those third-party browsers that are not desktop and make you think that your iPad is definitely a Mac replacement. Let me explain what I mean. Yesterday, iPadOS 26 Beta 1 dropped for every iPad except the iPad 7th generation. That is the only iPad that got excluded from the list. So if you have an iPad 7th generation, unfortunately for that device, it's no longer supported. Every other iPad that supports iPadOS 18, iPad Air 3rd Gen and later, iPad Mini 5 and later, iPad Pro, both 12.9 inch and 11 inch 3rd and 1st generation and later, will all be supported, as well as iPad 8th generation and later. And this is why I say iPadOS 26 is the new macOS for iPads. There is this new feature where it replaces Stage Manager. If you're not fully aware, Stage Manager was a feature that was introduced back in 2022 with iPadOS 16. Now, it was a very limited device-specific software. It required, at the time, to have an iPad Pro with an M1 chip or later. Then Apple later expanded it to the iPad Pro 2018 and later, with the A12X and A12Z chips. Well, now I'm happy to report, while Stage Manager, while it's not available for every other iPad than the iPad Pro and latest iPad Air with the M series chips, there is this new feature called the window management system, or the windowing system. It doesn't have an exact specific name like Stage Manager. A lot of people just call it the windowing system. And I'm happy to report that this new feature is available for every single iPad that supports iPadOS 26. Even the iPad 8th generation with the home button with the A12 Bionic chip. Every single iPad that gets iPadOS 26, whether the beta or the public release in September, will get this new feature. This is by far, without a doubt, the best thing that Apple has ever done. And I myself, who was really jealous at the time of iPadOS and Stage Manager, I am going to be absolutely excited that this feature is here. And that's not the only thing. We now get the traffic light buttons that are found in macOS, we get the red, yellow, and green buttons, which is used to close the app, minimize the app, make the app full screen or half screen. We now get that on the iPad. Every iPad gets it, including the iPad 8th generation. Even the iPad mini gets this feature as well. There is no iPad that is not going to get this new feature. Every single iPad that runs iPadOS 26 is going to get this new feature. And I am absolutely excited for this feature. Because currently, the only multitasking feature that iPads that don't support the new Stage Manager will get is the old Split View. Split View has been on iPad for many years, and while it's had some changes in iPadOS 13, it's still very not great. It's not up to the satisfaction of the way most people would really like it, myself included. Being able to open up two apps side by side, admittingly, that is wonderful, but I like the traditional you open up apps in Windows like you do on a MacBook or a Windows computer. And it was really unfortunate that that never came to the iPad until now. So now with iPadOS 26, you now are going to get this new windowing system where basically your entire iPad is a MacBook. So now iPadOS is the operating system that it should have been, because iPadOS has always got negative reviews for its limitation on multitasking. And for the most part, I do agree. While Safari is a desktop browser, which is honestly the best thing ever, still, iPadOS is very limiting in its software. I mean, you are able to have multiple apps in Stage Manager, but not all iPads get that. Not all iPads get that until right now, of course. With iPadOS 26, your iPad now turns into a Mac. You have those traffic light buttons to close, minimize, and full screen / half screen the app. And I believe you also have a slider to drag the app whether in full screen or not. So basically, Apple is no longer allowing you to go into split view in full screen. Not at least automatically anyway. While you can still use split view in full screen, you no longer can automatically open up split view and it will automatically open it up in full screen. You now have to make it full screen yourself, because now Apple has removed the ability to go in split view where it automatically does it in full screen every single time. Now when you go into split view, it's going to open up in a window just like it does on the MacBook running Mac OS. So if you've always wanted your iPad to be a true MacBook replacement, I am happy to report that this is finally true. And I use an iPad Air 4th generation, which is an iPad that was released in 2020 alongside the iPhone 12 and iPhone 12 Pro. It was released in October 2020. So this iPad is going to be 5 years old, and it is amazing that it is getting iPadOS 26. Now, I've had this iPad for 3 years. I've had it since March 19th of 2022. And it is, without a doubt, very interesting that iPadOS 26 will end up supporting this device. I will make tons of videos And I may even do a live stream specifically for iPadOS 26. I just wanted to make this video because if you've wanted your iPad to be a true MacBook replacement, this is the software that will allow you to do that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Comment down below, what do you think of this interesting news with iPadOS 26 turning your iPad into a MacBook? I know a lot of people, myself included, are going to be very happy that the iPad is finally going to be the device that it should have been 5 to 6 years ago. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. My name is Mr. Hawkins with Hawkins Tech, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.